In this new life, my best friend rushed ahead to save the future Tycoon from being bullied. In the previous life, she joined the group that bullied him and later committed suicide out of fear of retaliation. Meanwhile, I quietly cared for him and eventually became a renowned wealthy wife, enjoying a glamorous life after marriage. This time, she smiled at me and said, "This time, it's my turn to be the wealthy wife." I, on the other hand, took the opportunity to add fuel to the bullying of the future Tycoon. Who would have thought that the white moonlight he cherished after achieving success was actually the girl who used to bully him? After marriage, he tormented me for a lifetime for the sake of his white moonlight, claiming it was to avenge true love. This time around, I'm curious to see what kind of sparks will fly between the two of them. Everyone knows that Hujwa, the richest man, had an unfortunate youth. It is said that he suffered severe bullying in school. Whenever reporters ask whether this is true, a hint of nostalgia always flashes in Hujwa's eyes, completely unfounded. In high school, I met the person I miss most in my life, but unfortunately, she later committed suicide due to various circumstances. The reporter glanced at me. "So, your wife isn't the one you love the most?" Hujwa's gaze clung to me like a venomous snake, dragging my heart deeper into the abyss. He said, "Is she even worthy? She's nothing but a high and mighty, self-righteous hypocrite. I'll torment her for the rest of her life." Yusin, this pretty boy has a damn stubborn temper. He didn't make a sound even after losing 2 teeth. The guys are afraid to go too far. What should we do? My younger brother's voice snapped me back to reality. I blinked, only then remembering that I had been reborn, no longer the Mrs. who was abused to death by Hujwa, but Jian Yusin, a high school senior. In this life, I have all the patience in the world for revenge. I flexed my knuckles and snatched the iron rod from my brother's hand. "If you're too scared to go all the way, I'll do it myself." Hearing my words, Hujwa, who was curled up in the corner of the alley, finally showed some reaction, staring at me intently. A bright streak of blood trickled from the corner of his lips, and his blue and white school uniform was covered in destined footprints, making him look particularly pitiful. I have to admit, his appearance was extremely deceptive. In my previous life, I was completely fooled by him, ending up with the fate of dying without a whole body. I lifted Hujwa's chin with an iron rod and smiled. "Down on your luck, huh? How is the top student even more pitiful than a dog?" His lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to say something. I didn't give him the chance. With a swing of the iron rod, I struck Hujwa's kneecap squarely, producing a chilling sound of bone breaking. Ugh! Unable to bear the excruciating pain any longer, his forehead instantly broke out in beads of sweat the size of beans. His fingers dug into the gravel on the ground, scraping them until they were stained with blood. "Classmate Hujwa, Jian Yusin, are you crazy? How could you attack a fellow classmate? This is bullying." My best friend Lu Yuan appeared at the entrance of the alley, her face a mix of surprise and shock. Having spent over a decade with her, I could tell exactly what she was thinking at a glance. What shocked her was that I, who had always been gentle and considerate, would gather a group of troublemakers to attack Hujwa. What delighted me was that my actions had just given her a perfect opportunity to save the hero. With a smile in my eyes, I weighed the heavy iron rod in my hand and passed it to Lu Yuan. "Haven't you always disliked this guy? I gave him a good beating for you. If you think it's not enough, go ahead and break his left leg too." Lu Yuan flung the iron rod to the ground with a stern and righteous tone. "Jian Yusin, I will never collude with you. You colluded with off-campus bullies to harass classmates. You deserve to die 1,000 deaths. I disdain being friends with a bully like you." The iron rod flew onto the muddy ground, making a loud crashing sound. Lu Yuan put on a compassionate expression, trotted over to Hujwa, and took out a handkerchief to bandage him. "Classmate Hua, don't be afraid. With me protecting you, they won't dare lay a hand on you." Hujwa was in so much pain that he couldn't even muster the strength to resist. Supported by Lu Yuan, he limped out of the alley. As the three of us passed each other, Lu Yuan suddenly turned her head and gave me a triumphant smile. In a voice just loud enough for me to hear, she said, "This time, I will be the savior who rescues Hujwa, and I will be the one to become the wife of the richest man." The two walked away hand in hand, as if performing a breathtakingly beautiful tale of redemption. It was so captivating that I couldn't help but applaud in admiration. The term bully girl sounded utterly ridiculous coming from Lu Yuan's mouth, as it was quite novel to hear someone insult themselves. It's a shame Lu Yuan died too early in her previous life, otherwise, she would have known that Hujwa was nothing but a pathetic dog suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. This dog only bites its benefactors. The next day, when I arrived in the classroom for class, I found my textbooks and homework papers torn to shreds, floating up and Down in a water cup, the desk was covered in red ink, and a few bold, flamboyant words caught my bullies. Go to hell. I pressed my hand on the desk and said coldly, who touched my things? The whole class fell silent. A few classmates who were close to me winked at me and gently pointed their index fingers toward the southernmost seat, Lu Yuan's seat. She was reading the text aloud, seemingly indifferent to everything around her, except for those darting eyes observing my every move. I picked up the water cup and walked step by step to Lu Yuan's side. She put down her book, looking innocent. We're in morning reading class. What are you going to do? Splash. A cup of ice-cold water tilted and poured down, thoroughly drenching the expensive, well-maintained hair that Lu Yuan had spent a fortune on. With droplets trickling down the strands, the meticulously groomed phoenix instantly turned into a drenched chicken. Jian Yusin, you wretched bully, in order to maintain her good image in front of the whole class, Lu Yuan reluctantly swallowed the curse words she wanted to say and instead smeared my name with all her might. The more she spoke, the angrier she became, as if she had truly suffered inhuman abuse. Wiping away a tear, she continued, you just wait, I'm going to report you to the teacher right now. You'll be waiting to go home and reflect on your actions. Watching Lu Yuan leave the classroom, my deskmate finally dared to come over and speak to me. Aren't you and her childhood friends who've known each other for over a decade? Why did she go crazy at your seat first thing this morning, and even confidently claim that you're bullying others? Facing the probing gazes of others, my hands paused as I packed my things. I've already fallen out with Lu Yuan. As for why she says I'm bullying, it's probably because she likes Wuxia, and I've spoken to him a few times before. Just look at me now. How could I possibly be the one bullying others? I look more like the one being bullied. The story of Lu Yuan cutting ties with me was no secret in our class, but few knew that I made this decision because I couldn't stand her bullying the weak. In her previous life, Lu Yuan was extremely cruel and got along well with the troublemakers in society. If she took a dislike to someone, she would corner them in the bathroom and give them a harsh beating. Wuxia quickly became the center of attention in the crowd due to his outstanding academic performance and good looks. Lu Yuan wanted to date him and went to great lengths to find out about his family situation. Using a mix of temptation and coercion, unexpectedly, Wuxia refused to the death, which infuriated Lu Yuan so much that she had him beaten half to death. Then, she humiliated him in various ways every day, forcing him to drink water from the toilet and burning his skin with cigarette butts, all of which became routine. I still remember Lu Yuan's smug face to this day. A free punching bag is too good to pass up. After all, his mother is a mistress, and his father has abandoned them, so I don't have to worry about retaliation. After I stopped Lu Yuan's bullying, she held a grudge against me and spread malicious rumors about Wuxia and me all over the world. After Wuxia achieved fame and success, Lu Yuan, fearing retaliation, took her own life, but he believed that the rumors from back then were spread by me. He would gently trace every inch of my face, and just as he was whispering sweet nothings like a lover, he would suddenly tighten his grip around my neck. Jian Yusin, I thought you were so noble, but it turns out you're just as rotten as I am. You killed the person who loved me most in this world, so you shall bear all the blame, including my love and my hatred. Lu Yuan is a villain with no moral bottom line, and Wuxia is a hysterical madman. The two of them are best locked together forever. Just as my deskmate was about to say something more, Lu Yuan strode into the classroom with an air of arrogance. Jian Yusin, the homeroom teacher wants to see you. I put down my book and followed her to the office, watching her cry and twist the truth, turning black into white. Teacher, Jian Yusin splashed water on me, and the whole class saw it. You must stand up for me and make this troublemaker go home to reflect, or better yet, expel her. The homeroom teacher frowned slightly, speaking sternly. You usually have excellent grades, and all the teachers like you, but good grades are not an excuse to bully other students. Now, tell me, why did you attack Wuxia and Lu Yuan? My gaze remained calm, a faint smile on my lips. Teacher, you may have misunderstood something. It's true that I splashed water on Lu Yuan, but the incident started because she tore up my book first. Isn't it justified for me to defend myself? As for bullying Wuxia, that's even more absurd. He and I have always had a good relationship. If you don't believe me, you can ask the other students. Lu Yuan keenly caught this statement and skillfully avoided the main issue. Nonsense. Even if Jian Yusin used to be close to Wuxia, it doesn't mean she wouldn't bully him now. Last night at 8 o'clock, I saw with my own eyes Jian Yusin break Wuxia's right leg. If I hadn't bravely stepped in, he wouldn't just be taking a leave today, he'd be hospitalized. Wuxia was indeed absent from school today, and the homeroom teacher had also received a call for his leave, making Lu Yuan's words even more convincing. Jian Yusen, have your parents come to school tomorrow? I raised my eyes and met the homeroom teacher's gaze. Teacher, are you convicting me based solely on Lu Yuan's words? Isn't that a bit unfair? The homeroom teacher was left speechless, while Lu Yuan raised her eyebrows sharply. Whether you're guilty or not will be clear once Huizhua returns to school and we ask him. I hope you'll still be this stubborn then. Before the words had even finished, Huizhua knocked on the office door. His voice was cool and clear. Teacher, I'm here to report back from leave. May I come in? Just as drowsiness set in, a pillow arrived. Lu Yuan flushed with excitement and exclaimed, Teacher, he's here. The homeroom teacher adjusted his glasses. Come in. As soon as Huizhua entered the room, all eyes in the office focused on his right leg in a cast. Lu Yuan eagerly stepped forward to greet him. You came at just the right time. Speak up boldly and tell us who bullied you. Don't be afraid. The teacher and I will stand up for you. Huizhua, dragging his half-broken leg, was caught in a dilemma, his expression frozen. I spoke with a smile. Huizhua, I'm your dear classmate. Now tell everyone, am I bullying you? The moment our eyes met, I saw the fleeting depth and infatuation in his gaze. This man is a madman, having spent many years with him day and night. I already knew. This worthless dog can never be tamed with sincerity. It must be fed with blood and whipped to leave an indelible memory. I watched coldly as Lu Yuan chattered on, telling him she was saving him, and as the homeroom teacher patiently guided him to bravely speak the truth until Huizhua willingly stepped into my trap, shattering their self-righteous illusions. Thank you for your concern, teacher. And Lu Yuan, I injured my leg from a fall myself. It has nothing to do with Jian Yusen. Lu Yuan's smile shifted to my face, and I chuckled lightly. Right. I like Huizhua so much. How could I possibly bear to hit him? If there's nothing else, I'll head back to the classroom to study. You're not allowed to leave. Lu Yuan grabbed my hand and turned to persuade Huizhua. Did she threaten you? I saw with my own eyes that Jian Yusen broke your leg, and I was the one who bandaged your injury. Why are you lying? The only response she received was Huizhua's silence. The homeroom teacher noticed something was off, but with the main party unwilling to cooperate, there was nothing he could do. All right. It's just a minor scuffle between classmates, no need to blow it out of proportion. Jian Yusen, Lu Yuan, both of you are at fault. Each of you go back and write 1,000-word self-criticism, and don't bring this up again. Faced with the homeroom teacher's even-handed punishment, Lu Yuan trembled with anger and kicked the office door hard. After submitting his leave cancellation form, Huizhua limped away. Before leaving, I caught a glimpse of a flicker of light in his pitch-black eyes. Then it was swallowed by the abyss-like depths. It seems he really enjoyed it. Even more enjoyable things are yet to come. After returning to the classroom, several classmates gathered around, eager for gossip. What did you say in the office? How did you manage to make the usually lawless female tyrant cry? The female tyrant was Lu Yuan, who had always been domineering and was sarcastically nicknamed the tyrant by her classmates. Now, seeing her get her comeuppance, few felt any sympathy. Most were gleefully enjoying the spectacle. The classmate who accompanied me to pick up the new books was very interested in this topic, but I brushed it off lightly. Who knows, maybe she failed to chase Huizhua again. Suddenly, someone chimed in. Yusen, is the reason Lu Yuan keeps causing trouble for you because Huizhua likes you? The book slipped from my arm and fell to the ground. I stopped in my tracks. I caught sight of Huizhua slowly walking toward me. He had clearly overheard the classmates' discussion, expression unchanged, eyes flickering slightly. Some busybody chimed in. Yusen, I think you and top student Huizhua are a perfect match. Handsome guy, beautiful girl, equally outstanding grades. It's like a match made in heaven. Indeed, in everyone's eyes, Huizhua is a gentle and refined academic genius, with excellent grades and superior looks, the kind of person who seems to have been blessed by the heavens. Who could have imagined that his heart had long been a tangled mess of twisted ropes, unbreakable, unseverable? I smiled and said, oh, not at all, I'm not worthy of him, but since the top student is injured, I should definitely lend a hand. Could you please take my textbooks back to the classroom? I need to have a word with him. Everyone left with knowing smiles, and my smile turned cold. The surroundings were deserted, with only the biting wind howling. I kicked Huizhua's right leg, caught off guard. He slowly slid down along the wall. Flecks of red seeped through the cast, making his face appear even paler. Dragging that broken leg and still trying to follow me, I smirked, grabbing Huizhua by the collar and pinning him against the wall. Or is your left leg itching too, and you want me to help you with it? No, I just what? Like me, I exerted a bit more force with my hands, tightening my grip until Huizhua could barely breathe. I leaned close to his ear, my breath as gentle as an orchid. I heard you were taken care of by Lu Yuan all night last night. Was she good to you? Could she Make you feel as good as I do. You took 3 days off, yet you couldn't wait to come to school today. Were you in a hurry to see me? Huijua's face flushed from pale to red as he stared greedily at my face. The sound of panting gradually grew heavier. I could clearly see my own reflection in those eyes, malicious and cruel, but it still wasn't enough. In my past life, when Huijua cruelly severed my tendons and beat me until I miscarried, his expression was far more ferocious than mine is now. Without hesitation, I stepped on his leg and sneered, "I can see it now. You really are a despicable scoundrel. You like me. Are you even worthy?" Huijua remained silent. I vented my anger by grinding my foot a few more times, satisfied to see his handsome face turn ashen. "All right, stop pretending. I know what you're thinking. I'll leave that self-reflection to you. Since your pure-hearted savior dragged me into this, you can repay the debt she owes." This remark seemed to hit a nerve with him. His breathing grew erratic, and he lost his composure. The white roses above ground were pure and beautiful, but no one paid attention to their dark, muddy roots beneath the soil. I sized up Huijua for a moment, then slapped him across his spotless face. "Are you deaf?" Huijua shook his head, his voice hoarse. "I understand." After the letter of self-criticism was submitted, the homeroom teacher praised me during the class meeting for knowing my mistakes and correcting them. I also stated in the letter that I would interact more with Huijua in the future, firmly refusing to give anyone the opportunity to sow discord. The content of the self-criticism was all written by Huijua himself, and who knows how much of it was his true feelings. Lu Yuan clenched her fists in resentment, her nails digging into her palms until they drew blood. "Jiang Yusen, one day Huijua will become the richest man, and I will enjoy wealth and glory as his benefactor. Let's see if you can even keep your body intact by then," she murmured to herself, and all I could do was laugh. "Just wait, we'll see what the future holds." The academic pressure in the final year of high school was immense, with all students diligently studying to prepare for the college entrance exams in June. Only Lu Yuan was the exception. Every day, she found new ways to show concern for Huijua, constantly bringing him food and drinks. Even if rejected, she never tired of it. Anyone with eyes could see her fondness for Huijua. Gradually, new rumors began to circulate in the class, claiming that Lu Yuan and Huijua were a secret couple, and she was reluctant to make it official to avoid disrupting her boyfriend's studies. Although most people scoffed at the idea, they couldn't withstand the daily brainwashing from Lu Yuan's lackeys and gradually came to believe it. Huijua showed not the slightest fluctuation. He still calmly refused the cake and milk tea she brought and declined her request to go shopping. I sat in my seat, chatting and laughing with my friend. Some people are truly pitiful, offering warmth only to be met with coldness, unaware that the one they love has long become someone else's dog. Lu Yuan, repeatedly rejected by Huijua and now mocked, reached the peak of her anger and lunged over, trying to slap my face. I took a few steps back and reached up to grip her throat. "What's all the excitement about? Did I say it was you?" Lu Yuan gasped for breath, her fingers tightly clutching my wrist as she struggled desperately. I let go, and her head hit the table with a sharp thud. The whole class burst into laughter, from beginning to end. Huijua didn't even glance in her direction. Lu Yuan was both humiliated and furious, her eyes filled with venom, as if she wished she could crush my bones alive. After school, I declined my classmates' invitations to walk home together and set off on my own. The moon stretched my shadow long and long. In another moment of distraction, the shadow multiplied from one to many, clawing and snarling as they closed in on me. Without a change in expression, I tightened my grip on the telescopic baton hidden in my sleeve and turned right into a narrow, winding path. "Damn it, that bitch dares to mess with us. Hurry up and chase her down." Lu Yuan's roar was deafening, followed by the somewhat noisy footsteps of several people. A thug tried to flatter her. "Don't worry. Jiang Yusen is just a weak little girl. Once the brothers teach her a lesson, she'll know what's what." In my past life, it was the same. After Lu Yuan had a falling out with me, she flew into a rage and called some off-campus thugs to corner me in an alley. Huijua happened to pass by. I thought he would call the police, considering I had helped him before, but who knew Huijua would coldly watch the entire process of me being beaten. In the final moments of my life, I thought every day about how to get revenge. This time, I finally have the chance. While they were discussing how to torment me, I climbed onto the wall, picked up a stone, and aimed it at Lu Yuan's head. Blood trickled down through her fingers as she clutched her head in pain. "Sister Yusen, we're here to help you." The followers I had recruited had long been lying in ambush on one side, now sounding the charge to storm the battlefield. The thugs around Lu Yuan were scared out of their wits and took off running. I jumped down from the wall, landing lightly beside Lu Yuan, and grabbed her by the hair. "You think you're the only one who knows how to navigate the underworld. Not wanting to do something and being unable to do it are two different things. In my previous life, I studied diligently, respected the elderly, and cared for the young, yet I ended up in an extremely tragic situation. Just before my death, I finally understood one truth: you can't be too honest in life, for the kind-hearted are often bullied. So this time, I took the initiative to win over the local troublemakers around the school. In advance, preparing them to support me when needed, Lu Yuan, with a mouthful of dirt and tears in her eyes, cried out, "Jiang Yusen, how dare you harm me? Huizhou will become the richest man in the future, and I am his savior. Do you think you won't seek revenge for me?" I clapped my hands and had my men bring Huizhou over. He had just finished his part-time job and hadn't even taken off his work uniform. Lu Yuan was so agitated that tears and snot were streaming down her face. "Save me, Jiang. Yusen is trying to kill me." Huizhou seemed not to hear her call, his eyes fixed intently on me. I smiled and said, "Your little girlfriend is calling for help, aren't you going to save her?" Huizhou pursed his lips. "She's not my girlfriend. Even if she's not your girlfriend, she did save you. Don't you feel even a little bit of gratitude?" "Grateful?" Huizhou tilted his head and slowly spoke. "I'm only grateful to you." I couldn't help but laugh, my smile growing brighter and brighter. Laughter escaped through the gaps of my fingers, uncontrollable. Hearing this word from his mouth, I was not surprised at all, and amidst this laughter, Lu Yuan struggled with increasing intensity. "Jiang Yusen, what kind of bewitching potion have you given him?" I lifted her chin, revealing a smile. "Isn't this the school bullying you're all too familiar with? Savior, too bad you can't even save yourself now." I stood up and released my hand. "Now I'll give you two choices. First, Huizhou stays, and you leave. Second, he leaves, and you stay. Have you made your choice?" As an old hand at school bullying, Lu Yuan knew all too well the psychological devastation and physical torment that victims would endure. A flicker of hesitation crossed her face before she finally said to Huizhou, "Don't be afraid, I'll find someone to save you as soon as I get out." Lu Yuan scrambled out of the alley in a panic, not even bothering to retrieve the high heel that had flown off her foot. The younger brothers gathered around me, chattering excitedly. "Sis, that pretty boy was sneaking around following you again. He definitely looks shady. You were right to have us teach him a lesson." I didn't take the bait and changed the subject. "All right, it's almost 10 o'clock, time for everyone to head home. Don't forget to meet at the usual spot on Sunday. I'll be giving you a lesson. These tough guys may look fierce, but they're actually just 15 or 16 years old. Most of their parents work away from home and have neglected their children's education." I could see that these kids weren't beyond saving, so I took the opportunity to tutor them whenever I had free time. As a result, they listened to me quite well. The anticipated brawl today never materialized, and the underlings went home with long faces. Only Huizhou and I remained in the alley. I couldn't be bothered with him and walked away casually, only to have my wrist grabbed. "Why didn't you hit me? Is it because you pity me, eh?" Chill ran through my heart, and I flung his hand away. "I feel nothing but disgust for you." Huizhou was pushed against the wall, his frail body trembling slightly, yet his face glowed with excitement. "You're willing to touch me, to hit me, isn't that love? Just like my parents used to do to me. The harder they hit me, the harsher they scolded me. That's what love is." "Shut your filthy mouth. How can you say that without feeling disgusted?" My mind went blank, and I wished I could kill this pervert on the spot. Huizhou's family background was repeatedly featured in newspapers as part of his inspiring comeback story. His father was a prominent local businessman, and his mother was a third party who had interfered in someone else's marriage. Huizhou's mother had hoped to marry into the Hu family by relying on her son, but after giving birth to Huizhou, she discovered that her lover's illegitimate children were scattered all over the world, and even if she could rise in status, it would never be her turn. Huizhou's father also despised Huizhou, believing he was a tool used by a scheming woman to control him. Huizhou lived a miserable childhood, unloved by both his father and mother, and relied entirely on his own efforts to ascend to the position of the wealthiest person. Netizens are all feeling heartbroken for me. No one noticed his long corrupted and twisted heart, from beginning to end. I was probably just a part of Huizhou and the bully girl's game. Even Lu Yuan's death, he blamed on me, constantly tormenting my body and mind, trampling on my soul. "Jiang Yusen, what did I do wrong?" Huizhou's eyelashes trembled lightly, covered in snowflakes. "He really doesn't seem to understand why I'm angry." The heavy snow danced wildly in the sky, and the world gradually fell into silence. "The sky is snowing again. I will never be soft-hearted again. The mistake lies in the fact that scum like you shouldn't exist in this world." Lu Yuan and Huizhou quieted down for a while. Lu Yuan was frightened by me. Those who engage in school bullying are essentially cowards who bully the weak and fear the strong. As soon as they see someone with a tougher fist than theirs, they immediately back down, not daring to make a sound. Perhaps Lu Yuan thought she and Huizhou shared a common enemy, and wanting to cling tightly to this golden opportunity, she showered Huizhou with flattery. The latter seemed to understand something and grew increasingly resistant to her advances. Time flew by in the tense atmosphere day by day. Soon, the day of the college entrance examination arrived. This time, without the harassment from various scumbags, I was able to perform normally in the exams with ease and achieve the top score in the city's college entrance examination. Wijua fell far behind, only ranking 6th in the city, which was a significant drop from his previous life's performance. No matter what, the most difficult high school years were finally over. Among them, Lu Yuan was the most excited, although she had focused all her efforts on seducing Wijua and barely managed to get into a second-tier university. She was full of hope for the future. My Wijua will earn his first pot of gold after getting into university, and by the time he graduates, he'll have saved up tens of millions in assets. In 10 years, no, it won't even take that long, he'll be the wealthiest man in the entire country, and I, as the angel who has always taken care of him, will naturally become his wife. At the class reunion, Lu Yuan enthusiastically declared her grand ambitions, as if a wonderful future was waving to her. I swirled my wine glass and sneered. Lu Yuan had drunk too much and wasn't even afraid of me anymore, daring to point at my nose and curse. Jiang Yusen, there will come a day when you'll cry. Think about how you'll kneel and beg for my forgiveness, and maybe I'll spare your miserable life. If you've had too much to drink, have some water to sober up. I splashed all the drink from my glass onto her face, then set down the cup, grabbed my bag, and walked away. Several classmates hurriedly stopped me. Yusen, don't bother with a drunkard, let's keep eating and chatting, it's no big deal. Yet a hint of cunning flashed across their faces, barely noticeable. I raised an eyebrow and casually sat back down in my seat. All right, let's continue the conversation. I'm curious to see what tricks you're trying to pull. The banquet ended on a sour note, with everyone feeling disheartened and leaving. In Discord, the next morning, I was awakened by phone calls from several close friends. Quick, check the news, someone reported you for bullying at school, and now several universities have spoken out against admitting you. I clicked on the video link and found it was a surveillance recording from a class reunion. The title read, Top scorer bullies classmate for 3 years, causing victim to fail college entrance exam. The video had no sound and was trimmed to just over 10 seconds, but it still sparked heated discussions online. The combination of elements, college entrance exams, top scorer, and school bullying, was enough to enrage netizens. A so-called eyewitness revealed, Jiang Yusen, relying on her good grades in the teacher's favor, bullied her classmates without restraint, often forcing them to do her homework. Some people lashed out indiscriminately. Good grades don't necessarily mean good character. Talent without virtue is the most terrifying. Several universities have also declared they won't accept someone like me, and upon closer inspection, they're all third-rate vocational colleges. No one bothers to investigate the truth, everyone just wants to see what they already believe. I could report this to the police to address the defamation against me, but that would undoubtedly trigger an even bigger online frenzy. Netizens would accuse my family of having power and influence, colluding with administrative authorities to force a whitewash. So what I need to do now isn't to clarify the truth, but to muddy the waters even further. As the situation escalated, a completely opposite comment appeared in people's view. I do indeed know the bully in the video, but it's not the girl who splashed the water, it's the girl who got splashed. He listed more evidence, such as Lu Yuan's family background, educational history, etc., all of which were verified by enthusiastic netizens as true. In this way, the evil deeds Lu Yuan had committed gradually came to light. During elementary school, she pushed a female classmate into a public toilet urinal, and in middle school, she teamed up with delinquents to extort money from impoverished students. These actions caused her carefully crafted victim image to completely collapse. The IP addresses of those neutral and objective commentators were also exposed, and it turned out that several of them were my classmates. Faced with overwhelming evidence, they had no choice but to admit that they had tried to ruin my future out of jealousy over my exceptional performance. In the face of this situation, Lu Yuan hired a group of internet trolls in an attempt to drag me down with her. Even if that girl named Lu Yuan was somewhat at fault, is Jiang Yusen truly innocent? Unfortunately, public opinion would not reverse again as she had envisioned. Fortunately, there are still many people with a conscience in the world. The younger students I tutored for free stepped forward one after another to promote my good deeds, and even their teachers acknowledged that their grades had improved by leaps and bounds with my help. Lu Yuan lost. She was sentenced to 10 days of detention and a fine of 500 yuan for defamation, leaving a significant mark on her record. It seemed like everything was settled, but I didn't dare let my guard down, because that madman, Wijua, was far more dangerous than Lu Yuan. He is holding back now. What is he waiting for? After spending 10 days in jail, Lu Yuan still refused to give up and tried every means to kill me. While I was shopping with friends, she rushed up to me. Jang Yusin, do you think you've won? Have you forgotten that you really did bully someone? Facing the shocked gazes of the surrounding passers-by, I remained very calm. Do you have any evidence? You want evidence, right? Fine, I'll show everyone. Lu Yuan called Huizhua and sneered. Aren't you scared? Once he arrives, you're completely finished. I hope it goes as you wish. An hour later, Huizhua stepped into the mall. His face carried a trace of annoyance, but it instantly transformed into ecstasy upon seeing me. You finally came, classmate Hua. I just reported it to the police, with both witnesses and evidence in hand. Now that bully who wronged you won't be able to escape. Lu Yuan didn't notice the change in Huizhua's expression and smugly pulled out her phone. As long as you boldly speak out about what Jiang Yusin did to you, the police will definitely help. You seek justice, and that bitch will end up in prison for intentional assault. Huizhua's breathing grew rapid, the emotions in his eyes turned like boiling water, as if with a single sentence, he had effortlessly determined the fate of 3 people. He said, Yusin, I remember everything now. The noisy clamor fell silent, only the blaring sirens outside the building remained deafening. This statement was more devastating to me than Huizhua accusing me of intentional harm on the spot. It made me once again have the illusion of being abused by him in my previous life. I couldn't help but take a step back, and he stepped forward to support my hand. The touch was warm and gentle, yet the sensation imprinted on my skin was more unbearable than a branding iron. Get away, don't touch me. I shook off his hand without hesitation. Huizhua quietly watched me, his wrist frozen in midair. Lu Yuan died too early in her previous life to know the twists and turns behind it all. Her features twisted with jealousy and hatred. Jiang Yusin, how dare you bully Hua in front of everyone. When the police arrest you and throw you in prison, you'll never see him again in this lifetime. I didn't react at all. Instead, Huizhua tilted his head and glanced at her. Yusin, is it because of her? This sentence came out of nowhere, but I understood what he meant. Huizhua was asking me, in this life, you didn't marry me because she's still alive, isn't it? I didn't say a word, tightening my grip on the blade inside my handbag. If he dares to come near me, I will not hesitate to cut his throat. Lu Yuan's smile gradually faded, pointing at herself in disbelief. She said, Huizhua, I am the one who saved your life. How could you fall in love with that bitch who bullied you? Huizhua pulled a dagger from his backpack and, in a desperate move, stabbed it into her heart. Amidst the screams of those around him, Huizhua tossed aside the dagger, his gaze burning with intensity. Blood flowed across the pristine floor tiles as he knelt on one knee, speaking calmly. Yusin, she's dead. You can marry me now. Madman, pervert, psychopath. I stood in the pool of blood, my heart half shocked, half calm. This matter seemed too horrifying, but it felt perfectly reasonable when it happened to Huizhua. He was never someone whose actions could be measured by common sense. The police arrived promptly and took Huizhua and Lu Yuan's body back to the station. Huizhua confessed without hesitation, as if he had merely eliminated a minor enemy in a game, rather than taking the life of a living person. The police asked him, why did you kill Lu Yuan? According to our investigation, she was your classmate and had feelings for you. Huizhua replied, she got what she deserved, and so did I. Police, after killing someone, why didn't you run away, but instead knelt down and proposed to that girl? Huizhua, we were already husband and wife. It should have been as customary as in our previous life. Lu Yuan dies. She saves me, and then we are together. The police believed he had mental issues and ended the interrogation. They came out to provide me with psychological counseling, hinting indirectly, classmate, do you know why the suspect is so fanatical about you? I shook my head, observing Huizhua's eerily calm face through the one-way glass. He's sick, but not mentally ill. It's a psychological disorder. I hope the death penalty can be carried out as soon as possible. The police called in a forensic doctor to conduct a psychiatric evaluation of Huizhua, and the final conclusion was no different from what I had said. He was ultimately sentenced to death for intentional homicide. Before his execution, he requested to see me. Yusin, I never thought you would come to see me. As kind as ever. That's just like you. Huizhua spoke through the glass, his eyes shimmering with a faint light. I leaned back in the chair. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm quite malicious. The reason I came was to see if your executed corpse would be as shattered and broken as I was when I was dying in my previous life. Huizhua remained silent for a moment before speaking. I didn't mean to. What he means is that he didn't intentionally kill me, but rather accidentally beat me to death during the assault. I smiled. Did you intentionally kill Lu Yuan? She was in our way. Shouldn't she die? Huizhua said word by word. In our previous life, Lu Yuan helped us get together, and I was grateful to her. But in this life, she obstructed us, so naturally, she deserved to die. Think whatever you want. I won't waste my breath on someone who's about to die. If you dare appear before me in the next life, I'll kill you with my own hands. I closed my eyes, stood up, and prepared to leave. After 2 whole lifetimes, I had finally escaped the nightmare. He and Lu Yuan would have plenty of time to pour out their hearts to each other in hell. Yusen, Wishu called out to me, but I didn't stop walking. Perhaps he wanted to say something like I'm sorry or apologies, but I will never forgive him, and I will never see him again. I walked alone in the dimly lit corridor, knowing that ahead lay a bright and open path. Wishu let go and spoke his final words. This is love. Wishu's extra story. The first time I met Jiang Yusen, I was cornered in an alley by Lu Yuan and beaten. She ordered a few of her lackeys to pour ice-cold water over me, laughing triumphantly as she said, "Take your time. No need to rush. His mother is a whore, and no one cares about him. Just don't kill him." I leaned against the wall, my back scraped raw and bleeding, yet my heart was surprisingly calm. Lu Yuan was right. My mother was probably enjoying herself on some man's bed right now and couldn't be bothered with me. In the end, it was Jiang Yusen who happened to pass by and saved me. She had always been close with Lu Yuan, and I thought they were good friends. I never expected her to argue with Lu Yuan over me. Lu Yuan, feeling guilty, fled with her younger brother, Jiang Yusen walked over to me and thought for a moment, "Are you okay?" That was the first time I truly looked at her face, trying to detect a hint of contempt or disdain. Unfortunately, all I saw on her face was a repulsive pity. "I'm fine." I propped myself up and walked past Jiang Yusen, yet, as if uneasy, she followed beside me. "Why don't you tell your parents, or even call the police? It's useless. No one will care. The light of justice doesn't shine on me, and besides, what good would it do to stop Lu Yuan back at home? My mother and the lover she brought back would still casually beat me up, just as my mother herself said. I am a bastard. If someone is willing to touch me, even if it's a beating, it's a grace I should kneel and beg for." Jiang Yusen's face once again showed that hypocritical look of sympathy. Under her gaze, I felt my stomach churning and a faint sense of excitement. Despise me, hate me. Only in this way could I feel a bit of warmth as a living person. But Jiang Yusen didn't say much more. She followed me home and only left quietly afterward, because she escorted me home from school every day. Lu Yuan was afraid to act rashly and no longer dared to lay a hand on me. However, this didn't mean Lu Yuan had given up on this form of entertainment. She gathered her followers and targeted Jiang Yusen as the new subject of her bullying. We were on the same road, watching helplessly as she was dragged into the alley and beaten, watching her, because I was the one being beaten. I knew Jiang Yusen and Lu Yuan had been childhood friends for years, and I thought it wasn't a big deal, just like when my mother used to hit me. This is love, beating is love, pain is love, so I must also love Jiang Yusen. Well, years later, Lu Yuan died the night before I went back to look for her, reportedly by suicide. This was truly beyond my expectations. I had intended to thank her properly for teaching me how to love someone, but who knew she would die? I could only practice this method on Jiang Yusen alone. I made a lot of money, became the so-called richest person, and used some small tricks to force her to marry me. At the wedding, a reporter asked me if I had ever experienced bullying in school, and I replied, no. The harm Lu Yuan caused me was not even 1/10,000th of what my parents inflicted, and since they have already turned to dust, it naturally can't be called bullying. But Jiang Yusen is still alive. Her actions left an indelible impression on me, so she should stay by my side for the rest of her life, continuing to perform that saintly act of sacrificing her flesh to feed the eagles. I hit her because I love her. Because I love her, I must hit her even more. Thanks to my mother and Lu Yuan for teaching me this truth. Physical release is far more moving than verbal confessions. Look, Jiang Yusen is so moved that she's crying. She covered her lower abdomen, crying and saying she would never run away again, hoping I would spare her and the child in her womb. I used a knife to slowly sever her Achilles tendons, speaking with a pained heart. Yusen, you don't understand my love at all, so I can only take revenge on you. Yusen, that fool, why doesn't she understand me at all? When she resolutely threw herself onto the blade, the warm blood splattered onto my face, and in that daze, I seemed to understand something. The way I love is flawed. When I regained consciousness in a daze, the story was nearing its end. Lu Yuan called me, saying she had something important to tell me and asked me to hurry to the Central Mall. I reluctantly agreed to meet, partly because in my past life she helped bring Uxin and me together, and partly because I felt a surge of joy the moment I saw Uxin. Countless fragments of memories flashed through my mind. She gathered so many people to beat me up. Does that mean she likes me too? It turns out that the way we love has inadvertently reached a consensus. I told her, I remembered, but she shook off my hand and told me to get lost. Why is the outcome of this life different from the last? I looked at Lu Yuan, who was chattering incessantly beside me, and understood everything in my heart. A stray fish had ruined our marriage. Once she died, everything would return to its predetermined course, so I pulled out a dagger and, without hesitation, plunged it into Lu Yuan's chest. The bright white blade reflected Yusen's eyes. I can't wait to propose to her. The police asked me a lot of questions, And I tried my best to cooperate and answer them, but they still wore a troubled expression. I knew Yusun was standing outside the interrogation room, and I knew she must be sizing me up. This time, I came to my senses a bit too late, otherwise, I wouldn't have let things turn out this way, but it's alright, I will quietly await the next life, waiting for the next chance we meet. If you dare appear before me in the next life, I will personally kill you. Yet she shattered my fantasy like this. I stood frozen in place, my mind rapidly calculating the meaning behind those words. Yusun closed her eyes, turned around, and left the meeting room. Yusun, I called out her name, and I clearly saw her footsteps pause for a moment before she walked away even faster. Jen Yusun, did she think I was going to say sorry? She didn't care to listen, and I didn't care to say it. I let go of the iron railing and calmly uttered that word. This is love. Soon, a gunshot rang out, a bullet flew from the barrel, and the chaotic wind finally ceased. Love and hatred vanished without a sound after hearing the first story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was the top scorer in the college entrance exam, but I was expelled from the school. In my previous life, my roommate and best friend transferred all the negative consequences of her all-night partying and reckless indulgence onto me. We both participated in a competition. She won the top prize, while I was left in the dormitory with a splitting headache, too weak to even get out of bed. We both applied for graduate school admission without exams. She secured a spot with great fanfare, while I was suddenly shut out. I tearfully turned to my boyfriend for help, but he frowned in disgust. Can't you stop being so jealous? She's just a hardworking student from a poor background who gets better grades than you. Can you really not stand her? Later, to celebrate her successful postgraduate recommendation, my best friend got completely drunk at a bar and got into a fight. Meanwhile, I died of heart failure from alcohol poisoning in my dorm room bed. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to that afternoon when she handed me a small silk pouch. Stella held up an exquisite red silk pouch, smiling with an innocent and radiant expression. Molly, look, this is a unity pouch I got from a very famous temple in my hometown. They say that as long as we put a note with our birth details inside, we'll be best friends for life, sharing good fortune and bearing bad luck together. In my past life, I was fooled by this act of hers. I believed her nonsense and solemnly wrote down my birth details, sealing them together with hers inside this so-called unity pouch. From that day on, my life fell into an abyss. She partied every night, while I dragged myself to early classes with a splitting headache and dark circles under my eyes, nearly fainting in the classroom. She stayed up all night clubbing, then went to a competition the next day full of energy and won the top prize. Meanwhile, I was in my dormitory with a pounding headache, too weak to even get out of bed. When the graduate recommendation spots were announced, there was only one in the entire department. She proudly secured the spot, while I was suddenly shut out. I suspect it's the problem with the pouch. I tearfully turned to my boyfriend for help, but he frowned in disgust. Can you stop being so jealous? She's just a hardworking student from a poor background who gets better grades than you. Can't you just accept her? I had no way to defend myself. In everyone's eyes, Stella is the inspirational role model, a simple, hardworking, and positive girl from a small town, and I am the wealthy but narrow-minded, jealous best friend, the toxic female antagonist. Later, Stella went to a bar to celebrate her successful postgraduate recommendation, got drunk, and got into a fight. Meanwhile, I was lying on my cold dormitory bed, my whole body in pain, struggling to breathe. The last message I received on my phone before I died was from Sam. Stella got hurt in a fight. What kind of friend are you? Get over here right now. If anything happens to her, it'll be your fault for not taking care of her. Ridiculous, but the one who was really dying was me. Molly, what are you thinking about? Stella's voice pulled me out of my memories. Looking at Stella, who was smiling brightly before me, I suppressed the surging hatred in my heart and smiled as I took the pouch. Sure, we'll be good sisters for a lifetime. I picked up the pen and wrote my birth date and time on the note. Even if I didn't write it this time, Stella would surely find another way to get it. It's better to play along this time. I handed the note to her and watched as she carefully placed both notes into the silk pouch and tightened the drawstring. Done. From now on, we are the best sisters in the world. Stella happily hugged me. I hugged her back, and from an angle she couldn't see, a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Yes, my dear friend, this time, I'll let you experience firsthand what it truly means to share good fortune and bear misfortune together. That night, Stella went to an internet cafe with the senior she had just met to play games all night, not returning until the next day. At this time in my previous life, I was tossing and turning in bed with a splitting headache, and the next day, I almost failed my advanced math class, but this time, I slept exceptionally well. In the morning, I woke up refreshed and washed up, even having time To apply a pale and tired makeup look, Stella returned just before the morning class bell rang, her face full of exhaustion with dark circles under her eyes. Seeing my somewhat sallow complexion, she immediately came over with concern. "Molly, are you okay? Did you not get enough rest?" I met her hypocritical gaze and nodded. "Yeah, I didn't sleep well, had a nightmare." I leisurely packed my bag and went to class. She didn't understand why, even though the lucky charm had taken effect. I looked a bit haggard, yet she was also affected. She refused to believe it was a coincidence. From that day on, she became even more extreme. She was no longer satisfied with all-night clubbing and started bar hopping and binge drinking with the people she met off campus. The final sprint before the National College Student Competition, I spent every day in the library, racing against time to review. Stella parties every night, hitting the KTV today and the bar tomorrow. She seems to have completely given up on studying, convinced she'll effortlessly win the grand prize, and every time, I just happen to be the one cleaning up Stella's mess. She gets so drunk that someone has to bring her home, and she vomits all over the place. She played so wildly that she tore her new dress and started crying. I took care of her without complaint. The other roommates looked at me with complicated expressions. "Molly, you've really worked hard. Stella is so lucky to have a best friend like you." I have a face full of kindness and tolerance. Stella comes from a small town and hasn't seen much of the world. It's only natural that she finds everything in the big city new and exciting and enjoys having fun a bit more. As her best friend, it's only right that I take extra care of her. My hypocritical remarks clearly went over very well. The way they looked at me was full of concern, and my image in the dormitory kept getting better. "You don't push yourself too hard. The competition is important." I nodded. Who doesn't know how to create a persona? The night before the competition, Stella got drunk again. This time it was even more outrageous. She ended up sleeping at the bar and wasn't found by her advisor until the next morning. When the counselor helped her into the dorm, she reeked of the sour stench of a hangover. Her eyes were unfocused, and she could barely stand. "Stella, how are you? Can you still take the exam?" I asked anxiously. Stella glanced at me dazedly, a hint of smug calculation flashing in her eyes. She pushed the counselor aside and forced herself to stand up straight. "I'm fine, just a bit tired. Molly, let's hurry to the exam hall. We don't want to be late." She thought that, at this moment, I should have already taken on her hangover, headache, nausea, and fatigue for her. Just like in the previous life, I looked at her trying to act calm and sneered inwardly. "Okay." I picked up the exam supplies I had prepared earlier and walked with her toward the examination hall. Along the way, Stella kept glancing at me, puzzled as to why I still seemed so energetic. I pretended not to notice. Walking steadily and maintaining a calm expression, enter the examination hall and find your seat. As the exam bell rang, I picked up my pen and began answering the questions. My thoughts were clearer than ever before. Those problems that once gave me headaches were now effortlessly resolved under my pen. Having lived a second life, that knowledge was already engraved in my mind. What I lacked was never ability, but a clear mind and a healthy body. Halfway through the exam, I suddenly heard a suppressed gasp from behind me. I turned around and saw Stella tightly covering her mouth, with fine beads of cold sweat on her forehead, and her hand holding the pen trembling slightly. The proctor noticed her unusual behavior and walked over to ask softly, "Are you okay, classmate?" Stella shook her head and was about to say she was fine when, suddenly, with a whoa, she vomited directly onto the exam paper. The entire exam hall instantly erupted in an uproar. Everyone stared at her in shock. The invigilator was also startled and quickly supported her, saying, "Classmate, let me take you to the infirmary." Stella was half supported, half dragged out of the examination hall amid the chaos and strange glances. I lowered my head and continued answering my questions. On the day the competition results were announced, the entire department was in an uproar. Molly won the grand prize with an absolute advantage. The highly anticipated Stella was absent from the exam. The transcript was posted on the bulletin board, and I stood on the outskirts of the crowd, listening to the whispers around me. What's going on? Didn't Molly say she was in a bad state recently? How did she suddenly make a comeback? Stella is the real upset, right? Didn't she boast about winning the special prize before? How come this time? I heard that she threw up during the exam, her face as pale as a ghost. I listened to these remarks and walked away expressionlessly. Not long after I left, Sam blocked my way. He looked very upset and started questioning me the moment he spoke. "Molly, what on earth did you do to Stella?" I felt as if I had just heard the biggest joke of all time. "What did I do, Sam? Which eye of yours saw me do anything to her? If it wasn't you, how could she have underperformed so badly?" Sam's voice rose, drawing the attention of passers-by. "You got the grand prize. Are you satisfied now? Don't you feel ashamed of winning through such means?" Means, I sneered, staring straight into his eyes. And what gives you the right to question me, as her boyfriend or as mine? I study at the library every day until closing time, while she parties at the bar every night. Now that she's failed her exams, you come to question me. Sam, has your brain been pickled by all the alcohol she drinks? He opened his mouth, struggling for a moment before squeezing out a sentence. She's just under a lot of pressure and needed to unwind. Under pressure, I cut him off. Her idea of pressure is staying up all night gaming and drinking herself into a stupor. If that's the case, I'd like some of that kind of pressure too. His face turned pale and then flushed, and he was speechless. Just then, Stella, looking pale, walked over while leaning against the wall. As soon as she saw me, tears fell from her eyes, and she pitifully grabbed Sam's arm. Sam, don't blame Molly. It's all my fault. I'm just not strong enough, she spoke while casting a venomous glare at me with her tear-filled eyes. What a perfect white lotus in this glorious age. Sam immediately looked at her with a pained heart. Listen to how kind Stella is. Molly, I really misjudged you. I'm too lazy to keep arguing with these fools, so I turned and walked away. Fools, behind me. I could hear Stella's muffled sobs and Sam's gentle words of comfort. I didn't look back. The loss in the competition had clearly hit Stella hard. She quieted down for a few days, no longer going out to fool around, staying in the dorm every day, tinkering with who knows what. I was happy to have the peace and threw myself wholeheartedly into preparing for graduate school admission. In this life, I will not only reclaim the graduate school admission spot that belongs to me, but I will also make sure Stella is utterly disgraced. The opportunity came quickly. The school's annual scholarship evaluation has begun. Due to her unsatisfactory competition results, Stella lost the qualification to compete for the national scholarship and had to settle for the second best, applying for the inspirational scholarship. The inspirational scholarship does not have high academic requirements but has strict reviews of family financial conditions. Applicants must submit a certificate of financial hardship. In her previous life, Stella managed to secure the money by using a forged poverty certificate and her inspiring girl from a small town narrative. The first thing she did after getting the money was to buy the latest designer handbag. At the time, I foolishly felt happy for her, thinking she could finally improve her life. Looking back now, it's truly ironic. I watched Stella hand in a brand new poverty verification document, a cold smile curling at the corner of my mouth. She was up to her old tricks again, but I wasn't going to be caught unprepared. I hired a private investigator and sent them to Stella's hometown. The information the investigator brought back was even more shocking than I had imagined. Stella's parents are not at all the farmers she described, toiling in the fields with their backs to the sky, but rather locally well-known contractors. Their family lives in a 3-story house and owns cars for transportation. The grandmother she claimed was bedridden and paralyzed is actually dominating the mahjong parlor every day, and the brother who was supposedly relying on her college tuition money to save his life is now driving a sports car around the city, chasing after girls. What a poverty-stricken family indeed. I anonymously packaged the photos and videos taken by the detective, along with her parents' bank statements, and sent them to the Scholarship Evaluation Committee's email. After doing all this, I quietly waited for the show to begin. On the day the scholarship list was announced, Stella's name was prominently featured. She was so excited that she screamed and jumped around in the dorm, hugging her phone to share the good news with her family. Mom, I got the scholarship. It's $8,000. As soon as the money comes in, I'm going to buy that necklace I had my eye on last time. She gave me a smug look, her eyes full of pride and provocation, as if to say, see, even if I lost the competition, so what? I still found a way to get the money. I ignored her, just giving a faint reminder. The public notice period is 3 days. Isn't it a bit too early to celebrate now? Stella's smile froze on her face, and she then snorted disdainfully. Molly, you're just jealous. You're envious because I got the money. I smiled and said nothing more. Stella, your good days are over. Sure enough, the school forum exploded the day after the announcement. A post titled "Exposing the True Family Background of Stella, the Inspirational Goddess of the Finance Department" was pushed to the top of the trending list. The post was filled with both text and images, including photos of her 3-story Western-style house, videos of her brother driving a car, and screenshots of her parents playing mahjong. Each image was like a heavy hammer, shattering the carefully crafted, poor but determined persona that Stella had built. Under the post, comments instantly surged into the thousands. Holy crap, is this the same Stella I know? Didn't she say her family couldn't even afford tuition and had to rely on student loans, a 3-story house, a sports car, a company? And you call this poverty? Then what about us, living in a basement and eating plain Buns, extreme poverty, disgusting, what a drama of the year, using parents' money to buy luxury goods, then pretending to be poor to scam scholarships. How do people like this even have the nerve to live? The worst part is she keeps playing the victim in the dorm, saying she doesn't know where her next meal is coming from, and we foolishly pooled money to treat her to meals. Public opinion instantly reversed. As many people once sympathized with her, now just as many despise her. Stella clearly saw the post too. When she rushed back to the dorm, her eyes were red. Like a crazed beast, she grabbed my collar and screamed hysterically, "It's you. It must have been you, Molly. Why would you do this to me?" I looked at her coldly and spoke word by word. "I just made the truth public." "What? You dare to do it but not own up to it? You're lying. Those were all photoshopped. You fabricated them." Stella shook her head frantically, refusing to admit it. Just then, Sam rushed in. He saw this scene and pushed me without any explanation. "Molly, what madness are you up to again? Let go of Stella now." I stumbled from his push and hit the corner of the table, a sharp pain shooting through my waist. Stella immediately threw herself into Sam's arms as if she had found her savior, crying pitifully, "Sam, she fabricated evidence to slander me. The post on the forum was made by her. She wants to ruin me." Sam held her, glaring at me with a fury in his eyes that felt like it could burn me alive. "Molly, I never thought you could be this vicious. To go after Stella with such despicable means. I must have been blind to have been with you." Clutching my aching waist, I looked at the despicable pair in front of me and laughed. I laughed so hard that I almost cried. It was the same in my previous life. No matter what Stella did, he always believed in her unconditionally and defended her, and I was always the one who was vicious, jealous, and unreasonable. My heart died completely at that moment. "Sam," I said, looking at him, my voice eerily calm. "Let's break up." Sam froze, seemingly caught off guard by my proposal to break up. Stella, in his arms, also stopped crying and looked at me in surprise. I didn't give them time to react and continued speaking. "And, Stella, you'd better pray the school doesn't dig deeper. Otherwise, fraudulently obtaining a national scholarship is not as simple as just getting a demerit." After saying that, I no longer looked at them, turned around, and picked up the already packed suitcase. "I'm not staying in this place full of lies and stench anymore." Pulling the suitcase, I walked out of this dormitory that had been a 2-year nightmare for me. Under their shocked gazes, the moment the door closed behind me, I heard Stella's panicked scream, "Sam, what does she mean? Will the school expel me?" "I don't want to be expelled." I pulled my suitcase and walked along the tree-lined path on campus. With sunlight filtering through the leaves and casting dappled shadows, this was the first time I had felt so at ease since my rebirth. I rented a studio apartment near the school and settled in temporarily. The situation with Stella turned out to be much bigger than I had imagined. Defrauding the national scholarship is an extremely serious offense. To quell public outrage, the school has set up a special investigation team. In the face of solid evidence, any excuses from Stella seemed feeble and unconvincing. Her merit scholarship was revoked, and she was given a school-wide disciplinary warning. This blemish on her record meant that her path to graduate school was completely blocked. It said that on the day the decision was announced, she smashed everything she could in her dorm room and cried her heart out. She probably thought that this was the end of the matter. Unfortunately, I had no intention of letting her off so easily. I anonymously sent the complete set of materials proving Stella's falsified poverty documentation, along with her luxury goods purchase records, once again to the Disciplinary Inspection Department of the Municipal Education Bureau. Professional matters should be handled by professionals. Without lifting a finger myself, I could make her pay the heaviest price for her greed and lies. After dealing with Stella's matter, I began to focus on preparing for the graduate school recommendation interview. Without Stella, my state of mind was better than ever before. My thoughts were clear, and my energy was abundant. I reorganized and deepened the thesis I couldn't complete in my previous life due to health reasons, and also worked on several new research projects. On the day of the interview, I walked into the conference room confidently, dressed in a proper suit. Across from me were several professors, all leading figures in the academic world. One of the main examiners was the head of our department, an old professor known for his strictness. In my previous life, it was he who, during the interview, pointed out several critical flaws in my thesis in front of everyone and ultimately rejected me. At that time, I was physically and mentally exhausted and completely unable to handle his sharp questions, ending in a crushing defeat. But this time, I was fully prepared. I calmly elaborated on the points of my thesis, citing authoritative sources and presenting my arguments with clarity and logic. The elderly professor nodded frequently, and the gaze behind his glasses gradually shifted from scrutiny to appreciation. During the free Candé session, as expected, he once again raised a few tricky questions, just like in the previous life, but I had anticipated this. I calmly and methodically presented my research and insights, even extending and expanding on his questions from several new perspectives. The conference room was quiet, with only the sound of my clear and steady voice. After I finished my presentation, the old professor remained silent for a moment, then took the lead in applauding. Excellent, truly excellent, Molly, your academic foundation is solid, and your thinking is sharp. You have great potential as a scholar. The other professors also nodded and praised in agreement. I knew I had succeeded. Stepping out of the meeting room, the sunlight was so bright it was almost blinding. I let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as though the heavy burden that had weighed on my heart for years had finally been lifted. Just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw an unexpected person. Sam. He stood downstairs, looking somewhat haggard with a stubbly beard. As soon as he saw me coming down, he immediately approached. Molly, he said hoarsely, can we talk? I looked at him, my eyes showing no emotion. What is there left for us to talk about? I know I was wrong. He urgently grabbed my wrist. About Stella. I was at fault. I shouldn't have doubted you. Will you forgive me? Can we start over? I shook off his hand, feeling utterly ridiculous. Start over, Sam. What makes you think I would come back after being hurt by you and your beloved time and time again? He was at a loss for words, his face filled with pain and regret. I've already broken up with her. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. After the school issued the punishment, she started arguing with me, saying I was useless and couldn't protect her. Her family also called me, scolding me for being incompetent and ruining their daughter's future, Sam said with a bitter smile. That's when I realized she wasn't the innocent, kind girl I thought she was. Only now did you realize it. So, after she dumped you, you remembered me, your backup plan. I didn't hold back, calling him out bluntly. Sam's face instantly flushed bright red. No, Molly, I've always had you in my heart. I was just momentarily blinded by her. Enough. I didn't want to hear any more of his hypocritical excuses. Sam, we're over. Don't come looking for me again. With that, I walked around him and left without looking back. A hoarse shout came from behind him. I didn't look back. Some mistakes, once made, leave no chance for redemption. The recommendation for graduate studies was, without a doubt, awarded to me. On the day the announcement was posted, I was reading in my apartment when I received a call from my academic advisor on the phone. The counselor's tone was filled with relief and apology. Molly, congratulations. I always knew you were the most outstanding one. Before we misunderstood you. That student Stella. Sigh. It's really hard to know someone's true nature. I responded briefly and hung up the phone. Misunderstanding. If I hadn't been reborn and held the evidence, this misunderstanding would likely have haunted me for the rest of my life. Meanwhile, the true culprit could have stepped over my bones and basked in glory. This world has never been absolutely fair. What you want, you can only fight for yourself. Just as I was thinking, my phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment but still answered. On the other end of the line came the panicked voice of a woman. Hello? Is this Molly? I'm Stella's mom. Please, I beg you, please let our Stella go. I held the phone, silent. On the other end of the line, Stella's mom was still sobbing and pleading tearfully. Our Stella has already been publicly criticized by the school, and her chance to be recommended for graduate school is ruined. Why did you have to report her to the Education Bureau? She's been locking herself in her room all day, not eating or drinking, and she's become so thin she's almost unrecognizable. If anything happens to her, how are we supposed to go on living? Molly, I know Stella was wrong before. She shouldn't have gone around talking about her family's business, but she just had a momentary lapse in judgment. Could you please be merciful and withdraw the complaint with the Education Bureau? We'll give you money, we'll compensate you. Listening to her twisted version of the truth, I felt nothing but disgust. A momentary lapse in judgment, forging poverty certificates to fraudulently obtain national scholarships. Is that just a momentary lapse in judgment, using dark magic to shift the consequences of your own misdeeds onto me, causing me to fail my exams, get rejected from graduate school, and ultimately die a tragic death? Is that also just a momentary lapse in judgment? And, I said coldly, your daughter now refuses to eat or drink and has become emaciated. She brought this upon herself. On the other end of the phone, the crying abruptly stopped. Stella's mother was infuriated by my words. What nonsense are you talking about? Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you can go ask your precious daughter and find out, I sneered. Ask her what that heart-linking pouch really is. Ask her why, every time she parties all night and wakes up with a hangover, I end up with a splitting headache, nausea, and vomiting. Ask her how she can so shamelessly climb her way up by stepping on my pain and failures. My voice was not loud, but every word struck deep on The other end of the phone, Stella's mother gasped sharply. Clearly, she knew about the existence of that love pouch. You already know. Her voice trembled, filled with fear. Not only do I know, I said word by word, but I also know what the consequences are when such dark magic backfires. No, Stella's mother broke down, letting out a piercing scream over the phone. I beg you, we were wrong. We were truly wrong. We'll give you anything you want. Please save Stella. Too late, I coldly uttered 2 words and hung up the phone directly. He who sows the wind shall reap the whirlwind. From the moment the mother and daughter decided to use such underhanded means to harm me, they should have anticipated this day. I blocked that number, and the world finally became quiet. A few days later, I heard about Stella's final outcome due to defrauding the national scholarship. With severe circumstances and negative impact, coupled with her refusal to admit fault and lack of remorse, the school, after deliberation, decided to expel Stella. A red-headed document completely stripped her of her facade. She was no longer the pride of a prestigious university, but just a failure who had been expelled, with a huge stain on her resume. I heard that on the day she left, not a single person came to see her off. She dragged her suitcase alone, looking haggard and hollow-eyed, like a puppet that had lost its soul. All the friends who once surrounded her, including Sam, avoided her like the plague. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Such is human nature. Meanwhile, I am preparing for my graduate school admission. The senior professor holds me in high regard and has offered to be my advisor, even recommending me to join a national-level key research project. My future looks bright. Before starting school, I went back home for a visit. My parents were overjoyed when they saw the admission letter I received. At dinner, my mom made my favorite pork rib soup and kept putting food on my plate. Eat more, you've lost weight recently. Dad, on the other hand, opened a bottle of fine wine he had treasured for many years and solemnly poured me a glass. My daughter has grown up and made something of herself. Here, let me toast to you. Looking at their proud and happy smiles, my eyes grew a little warm. In my previous life, I let them down. After I die, they will be the ones with white hair sending off the one with black hair. How heartbreaking that must be. In this lifetime, I will never let them worry about me again. I will live better than anyone else. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a text message from an unknown contact with a hidden number. The text message was very short, just one sentence. Molly, do you think you've won? I won't let you off, not even as a ghost. It was from Stella. I looked at the vicious curse and deleted it expressionlessly. I never wrote my own birth details in the heart-sharing pouch, so it poses no threat to me. I raised my wine glass and gave my parents a bright smile. Dad, Mom, let's make a toast to my new life. Graduate school life is more fulfilling and busier than I imagined. Under the guidance of my mentor, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to the research project, spending my days shuttling between the lab and the library with almost no personal time, but I enjoyed every moment of it, being able to pursue research I love and turn knowledge into results. This sense of accomplishment is irreplaceable. I rarely think about Stella and Sam anymore. They feel like insignificant episodes in my life, now in the past and completely behind me. It wasn't until a year later that I happened to hear news of them from a college classmate. After graduating, Sam passed the civil service exam in his hometown and settled into a mundane 9-to-5 life. It said that he later married an ordinary schoolteacher from a modest background through a matchmaking arrangement. Life was neither good nor bad, just uneventful and unremarkable. As for Stella, her fate was far more tragic. After being expelled from school, she became a complete laughingstock. Returning to her hometown, she was overwhelmed by gossip. She faced rejection everywhere she looked for a job, as no employer was willing to hire a graduate with a tarnished reputation. Her parents' business also plummeted because of her situation, and former partners quickly distanced themselves from her family. The immense disparity and pressure completely broke her. It is said that she later developed mental issues, acting erratically all day, muttering words no one could understand, and telling everyone that someone was out to harm her. Her parents took her to see countless doctors and consulted numerous so-called masters, but nothing helped. In the end, they had no choice but to send her to a mental institution. As for the heart-linking pouch, the source of all the evil, after I learned that Stella had suffered a backlash and lost her sanity, I took it to a temple. I did not burn it. I gave it to the abbot of the temple. The abbot was an enlightened monk. He looked at the doll, sighed, and chanted a Buddhist prayer. Foolish child, he told me that this is a type of dark art from the South Seas called the shared fate goo. Once it is cast, it cannot be undone unless one of the parties dies. However, this conjuring is extremely domineering and highly prone to backlash. Those who cast the conjuring will ultimately have their minds devoured by the goo insects. Unable to live or die, in my previous life, I bore all the consequences for her, allowing her to thrive and prosper in this life. I have only returned to her what rightfully belonged to her. Karma is inevitable. It never misses its mark. After listening to my classmate's story, I felt no emotion in my heart. A pitiful person must have their hateful aspects. The outcome she faces today is the result of the path she walked step by step. I hung up the phone and continued revising my paper. Outside the window, the night was deep, and the city lights sparkled. Like a galaxy, my phone lit up with a message from my advisor. Molly, the data in your last paper submission was outstanding, and the International Journal has decided to accept it. Congratulations. I smiled and replied, thank you, teacher. Then I turned off my phone, walked to the window, and pushed it open. The evening breeze carried a hint of coolness, brushing against my cheeks. Incredibly refreshing. I took a deep breath, gazing at the distant city lights, feeling a deep sense of peace in my heart. My life has long since had no intersection with those unbearable people and things. The road ahead is still long, but this time, I walk with firm steps and a clear gaze. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.